Good morning. Last week we were on vacation in Colorado, and we got to see, of course, Kelly and Andy and Luke and Mara and Parker and Millie. But we also got to see Paul and Krista and Olivia and Cameron. Everybody got to get to be together, and that was so much fun. It was after dinner, though, one night. I happened to look out the window, and I saw Paul outside playing catch with his son Cameron. They were tossing the ball back and forth, and then Paul was throwing him pop flies, and it was just fun watching him play catch with his son. Earlier this year, when we went out to Bend, Oregon, Marsh and I had such a good time, and our schedule landed such that we didn't get to see any of Cameron's baseball games, but we did get to go to one of his practices. I mean, he's now 8 years old, so he's really in that early stage. He's played t-ball for a couple of years before, but now it's starting to get into kids pitch, and the coach was out there pitching to them. They were taking batting practice. It was cold, really. We were bundled up, but we had a great time watching him out there practicing. In fact, they were doing it. Some of the other coaches had the kids broken into small groups, and one was over here learning about base running, and another one was over here fielding, and then you had the other coach throwing pitches, and the kids were hitting. They were short-handed, and so the balls would be rolling out to the infield and out to the outfield, and so Paul and I took it upon ourselves. We ran out there just to shag the balls. As the kids would hit them, we would chase them down and throw them or roll them back to the pitcher's mound so we could just keep on pitching. While we were standing out there doing that, we got to reminiscing. It really was a very special moment. That here was my son now and watching his son practice, and we started thinking back about when he was practicing, and we'd had such a good time. And Paul turned out to be such an amazing player. I mean, he really was an incredible athlete. As a young boy, it was easy to see when he was playing Pee-wees, he was going to be good. And he was, helping to star in his high school baseball team, going to college and playing for Johns Hopkins University. But what he got to talking about was how grateful he was to me for all the hours that I had spent throwing catch with him, hitting ground balls, hitting pop flies, pitching to him so he could practice batting. I never really had thought about the fact that he might know or be aware of just how much I had been doing that for him. Now, as I was watching him outside playing catch with his son, it made me think about my father. My father worked in Crown Refinery. He was a very hard worker. He was up by 5:15 every morning. He was out at work by 6:30 every morning in the refinery. He had to do hard physical labor all day long. And when my dad came home, he was tired. But when I asked him to go play catch, I don't ever remember a single time of him saying no. What I remember of my dad was how he was always going out, hitting me ground balls, pop flies. He was pitching to me so I could practice hitting. And it was more than baseball. When my dad was doing that for me, what I really sensed was how much my dad loved me, how important I was to my father. My dad loved me with Christ-like love. That love that we see when Jesus tells the story of the prodigal son, a father who had a son who did some good and some not so good, and the father never stopped loving him. Well, that's how my dad loved me. And it's how I tried to love my son. And it was really so very special. See my son loving his son the same way. Yesterday was Father's Day. And I know there's so many of you dads out there who are doing the same thing. Taking the time to be there for your kids so they understand how much you love them and how important they are to you. And it's easy to see when you do that, that love gets passed on from one generation to a generation to a generation to a generation. Your love is not going to be forgotten. It's how you will help change the world. So to all of you who are out there sharing God's love and bringing hope, sharing it, just know you're a blessing that will live on. Have a great day.